So factors that affect coffee. Okay, factors that affect coffee. Okay, so factors that affect coffee. Let's see. So when you talk about factors that affect coffee, we are talking about those factors you have to consider before making our coffee cup. You understand? Those factors you have to consider before making our coffee cup. Oh, those factors we see, those factors we have to put emphasis on when making our coffee cup. Okay? So, bro, there are a lot of factors, but factor number one, it is what we call a coffee ratio. Because coffee ratio. Okay? So, coffee ratio. The coffee ratio means how much water that goes into 1 gram of coffee. Coffee ratio means how much water that goes into 1 gram of coffee. Okay? So, here, what I mean is that in 1 gram of coffee, only 1 gram of coffee, you have to put an estimated amount of water. You don't just put water to dilute. You understand? You have to put what we call a coffee ratio. For example, you have what we call espresso. For us, all of us we know espresso. Not so? So espresso has a ratio of 1:2. Okay? That in 1 gram of coffee, you have to put 2 milliliters of water. You understand? We have what we call V60. Our V60 has a ratio of 1:14 as our standard here. 1:14. You understand? So, simply means in 1 gram of coffee, when I'm making the V60, I have to put 14 milliliters of water as my yield. You understand? So, you have, okay, let's say AeroPress. Also the AeroPress, you all know it. All this espresso is a beverage. This is a beverage. AeroPress is a beverage. You understand? So AeroPress also we're using a ratio of 1:12. You understand? If they give you any gadget, or if you're going to do any kind of coffee, ask for the ratio. You understand? Or first consider the ratio. Okay? The coffee ratio is very important because it will guide you on not to make too much diluted coffee or too much concentrated coffee. When I talk about dilution, I'm talking about too much watery coffee. Okay? If I talk about too much concentration, I'm talking about very strong coffee. You understand? So you have to follow the standards, the ratio standards, such that you get a good yield. You understand? The yield I'm talking about when you're making the espresso, espresso is the yield. When you're making your V60, V60 is the yield. You understand? Okay. So factor number two. Factor number two we consider when making our coffee is what we call a grind size. Okay guys, the grind size is also very, 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 very important. Okay? The grind size is very important. When I talk about the grind size, I'm talking about the size of the coffee beans we use when making our coffee, or the size of the coffee beans we grind when we are going to do our coffee. You understand? So here we have 3 types of grind sizes. We have the fine grind size, we have the medium grind size, and we have the coarse grind size. Okay? The fine grind size is the small one. The medium grind size is between small and big. So the coarse grind size is the bigger particles. You understand? Okay, I will do a demonstration here. So these are the fine grind sizes. Okay? And this is the medium grind size, and these are the coarse particles. You understand? So you have to consider the grind size, because every grind size, it has a suitable coffee beverage we are using it to. Every grind size, there is a suitable coffee beverage we are using it on. You understand? For example, like the fine grind size, we are using espresso. You are using it when you're making espresso. You are using it when making the AeroPress. AeroPress. You understand? You are using it when making a cold drip. etc. You get. So, before you make coffee, you have to first know the coffee beverage I'm going to make, which grind size am I supposed to use? You understand? Because, like the medium grind size, you are using it when making a V60. Carita wave. You understand? The coarse grind size, chemics, you are using it when making chemics. You are using it when making a cold brew. Okay? You get. So, if they ask you to make coffee, first you know the grind size I'm going to use, because the grind size can affect your coffee taste. That is, if you're making espresso, okay? Espresso you're using a fine grind size, and you use a coarse grind size. Water will just penetrate through the coffee beans and you get what we call under extraction. You understand? Reason being, the particles will be big and water will just penetrate through. You get? And if it penetrates through, you get your coffee in less time, meaning it will be under extracted. Under extraction is when we get our coffee in less time. You understand? We get our yield, but less time. Simply means that the grind size we used was not good. For the grind size we used, it was not the specific grind size we have to use when we're making that specific cup of coffee. Okay? So, before you make your coffee beverages, or before you start brewing your coffee, first you know I'm going to make AeroPress. AeroPress, which grind size am I supposed to use? Okay? I'm going to make espresso. Espresso, which grind size am I supposed to use? Okay? Be guided and the grind sizes. Every beverage you're making, make sure that you know the grind size you have to use. Okay? Okay. Okay. Factor number 3. Factor number 3, we have what we call time of extraction. Time of extraction. So, time of extraction and grind size, they are moving at the same time. You understand? Because when I talk about time of extraction, I'm talking about the time you're going to take when you're doing your coffee, or the time water is going to take when it is in contact with the coffee. You understand? Time of extraction. Okay? So, time of extraction, it also depends on the coffee beverage you're going to make. So you have to know the coffee beverage you're going to make, it takes how much time. For example, you have espresso. You have espresso. Espresso takes how much time? 20 to 30 seconds. Okay? You have a V60. V60 takes how much time? 3 to 4 minutes. Okay? You have a chemix. Chemix takes how much time of extraction? 4 to 5 minutes. You understand? You have a cold brew. A cold brew takes 24 hours. You understand? So, all apparatuses, all beverages have their own extraction timings. You understand? So you have to know, you have to be guided that I'm going to make espresso. My espresso has to be extracted between 20 to 30 seconds. If it fails to be in that time, simply means you have either under-extracted or over-extracted. If it fails to be in that time, it will simply mean that your coffee is not perfect. You understand? Your coffee is not perfect. So, for example, bro, if I tell you make a V60, and you make your V60 in 1 to 2 minutes, or in 1 minute, simply means it used less time. What you know? Simply means it used less time. You understand? So if it has used less time, it is what we call under extraction. You understand? So you have to know that I'm going to make AeroPress. It has to take 1 minute to 2 minutes. It has took 30 seconds. This coffee is not good. I'm doing my espresso. Espresso has took 40 minutes, 40 seconds. Simply means this coffee is over extracted. It is not good. But what will affect this coffee to be changing the time of extraction? It is what we call the grind size. The moment you don't know the grind size you're using, it will affect your extraction time. And if the extraction time is affected, simply means the coffee taste is also affected. You understand? Because if the time is affected, it will mean that this coffee will either be under-extracted or over-extracted, and the taste will be changing. You understand? So, if at all you're doing espresso, espresso has to be used in a fine grind size. And you have used medium grind size. The particles are bigger. Simply means water will just pass through these beans and it will be under extraction. So, you have to know the grind size to be guided on the time or to get a perfect time. You understand? You have to know the grind size. Because the grind size, it will affect your time. And if time is affected, meaning the coffee taste is affected. How to get that, guys? Hope everyone in this room you can tell the coffee ratio, the grind size, and the extraction time. Okay? How to get that, guys? Okay. Factor number 4. Factor number 4 is the coffee quality. So when I talk about the coffee quality, it takes us back to specialty coffee. You understand? Because here we are specializing in coffee generally. We are specialty baristas. You understand? So in specialty coffee, we are using only Arabica coffee beans. We are using only Arabica coffee beans. So the coffee quality, the beans have to be Arabica. We are using. The coffee beans have to be Arabica. And these coffee beans have to be of a high quality. They have to be of a high quality. You understand? They have to be Arabica and they have to be of a high quality. When I talk about a high quality, I'm talking about specialty coffee beans that are graded 80 points plus. Yesterday we learned about this. Also. You understand? So when I talk about 80 points plus, you can understand it. Okay? They have to be Arabica. They have to be Arabica. You understand? Graded at 80 points plus. You understand? Yeah. They have to be Arabica. Specialty coffee beans graded at 80 points plus. Okay? Okay, so number 5, factor number 5. Water quality? Temperatures. Factor number 5 is the temperature. Okay? So when I talk about the temperature, guys, remember we are brewing coffee. We are brewing coffee. Okay? So if you are brewing coffee, we are using water to brew our coffee. This water is boiled. Okay? But guys, this water has a minimum temperature it has to be. You understand? As per the standard, the temperatures of the water, they range from 88 to 96. 88 to 96. But still, it depends on the brewing method you are going to use. It depends on the brewing method we are going to use. Okay? If you are going to brew our espresso, the temperatures have to be between 90 to 92 degrees Celsius. If you are brewing our espresso here, the temperatures have to be 90 to 92 degrees Celsius. But if we are doing our coffee manually, we are going to use the V60, we are going to do the Chemix, we are going to do the Carita, we are going to do the Aeropress, that side. Okay? The temperatures have to be ranging from 88 degrees Celsius to 92 degrees Celsius. Okay? The reason why we have to be within these temperatures is that if we use high temperatures on this coffee, our coffee will be bad. Okay? And if we use less temperatures on our coffee, we shall fail to burn out the flavors we are looking for in this coffee. You understand? So we have to be between these temperatures. Okay? But when do we go to 96? When do we go to 96? That is if our coffee beans have aged. If our coffee beans have aged. You understand? There is time when the coffee beans have aged when the coffee beans have took too much time in the coffee shop. Okay, so this time we have to increase the temperatures of water you're using to 96. Okay, to 96, such that these beans that have aged, they can be brewed easily. Remember, if they are still fresh, they have a smooth surface. Eh? But if at all the time goes on, they get a rough surface. So you have to increase the temperature such that you can burn out all the flavors in this coffee. Okay. You understand? You have to increase the temperatures to 96. And there is time when you reduce the temperatures below 88, and then you go to 84. That is if our coffee beans are still fresh. You understand? I'm going to elaborate it more on the edge of the coffee beans. Okay? So the temperatures, when you're doing our espresso, they are ranging from 90 to 92. And we are doing our manual brewed coffee or filtered coffees, the temperatures are between 2. Thank you so much. Okay, factor number 6. Water quality. Water quality. Okay, so when we talk about the water quality, we are talking about the quality of the water we are using. Right now we are facing a problem of this machine because we are not focusing much on the water. You understand? So, when I talk about the water quality, I'm talking about the quality of the water we are using. I talked about it already. So, here, we follow what we call the TDS. We follow what we call TDS. Okay? The TDS, total dissolved solids. The TDS is total dissolved solids. Okay, so for some of you who took chemistry, you know that water, it has some chemical elements, not so? So some let me say potassium, calcium, like that. Potassium, you know all that. You understand, eh? So all those total dissolved solids in water, we have to measure them. You have to measure the water you are going to use. You understand? You have to measure the TDS of the water, of the total dissolved solids in that water, because we believe if the total dissolved solids are high than what we want, our water or our coffee will be salty. You understand? So we have to measure the total dissolved solids, and it is supposed to be between 150 ppm to 250 ppm. You understand? So in coffee shops you have thermometers. They are same like this one. They are same like they put it under our armpits. Okay. So you get a container. You put a sample of a water you're going to use, or you're using in the coffee shop. So you put that thermometer. Okay. So the TDS will be running. If it is between 150 to 250, it means your coffee is perfect. I mean your water is perfect to be used. You understand? But if it exceeds 250, we expect that water to be salty. And if it is salty, also our coffee will be having salty taste. You understand? So you have to measure your TDS before using the water. You understand? You have to measure the TDS before using the water. So ppm, it means parts per million. It is the units we use to measure the TDS. It means parts per million. Okay? ppm are the units we use to measure the TDS of water. Okay? Parts per million. Okay? Still on water quality, this water has to be filtered. It has to be filtered. Most of the coffee shops you go to, they are not like our coffee machines here. Okay? They have filters down, but water passes through those filters before it reaches the machine. You understand? Okay. Okay. So hope everyone on this video, everyone in this room can tell the coffee ratio, the grind size, the time of extraction, the coffee quality, the temperatures, and the water quality, how they affect our coffee. Everyone is in possession of that. Okay, so let's proceed to another factor. Factor number 7.
Age of the coffee.
Age of the beans. Okay, so age of the coffee beans. So if the beans are got from the garden, they are green beans. Okay, so they are took to the roastery to be roasted. You understand? So after roasting this coffee, it will be having what we call carbon dioxide. You understand? How does this carbon dioxide come? In the roastery, when they're roasting, there is a chemical reaction that takes place between carbon and oxygen. You understand? That will lead to our coffee to be having carbon dioxide. You understand? So immediately they finish roasting these beans, they'll be having carbon dioxide. So you as a barista, before you use your coffee beans, before you open your coffee pack, you have to check for the roasting date on the date they were roasted. You understand? You have to check the date they were roasted. Some of the dates they are always here now. Okay? You have to check the date these coffee beans were roasted. Okay? So from the date when these coffee beans were roasted, you have to wait 7 days before you open that bag. You understand? Reason being, if these coffee beans are freshly roasted, they are having what we call carbon dioxide. And if you brew this coffee with that carbon dioxide before it deoxidizes, it reduces, our coffee will be having a taste, a dull taste when swallowing it. You understand? So you have to wait for them for 7 days to release that carbon dioxide. You understand? To release that carbon dioxide to the gas. Okay? To the gas. If you don't wait for them for 7 days to the gas, our coffee, if you brew it and someone tastes it, or every time it will be like when he's having a dullness here. You understand? So you have to wait for 7 days to 14 days so that this coffee, it releases what we call carbon dioxide. It degasses. You understand? So the perfect age of the beans is between 7 to 14 days. The perfect age of the coffee beans is between 7 to 14 days. They will ask you these things on interviews, bro. So you have to know each and everything and how to explain it. Don't wrong understand.
The question is, you buy them in the shop, you must keep it one, two,
Okay.
or easy.
No, you are buying this coffee from roasteries. You are buying it from roasteries. You understand? There are specific roasteries that roast our coffee. You understand? We're not just buying coffee from Bakara or from anywhere. You are buying them from roasteries. So if you buy coffee today, today's when? Today is 16th. Okay? So if I buy coffee today on 16th, okay? And I check when it was roasted yesterday on 15th. Okay? I have to wait for this coffee for 7 days. For 7, from the day it was roasted, then it means I will open it on 22nd. You understand? Don't open this bag before it makes 7 days. Because it will be having a high creamer, and the higher the creamer, the higher the gases. You understand? If I told them these 60 beans, they will be taking too much time to brew. And if they take too much time to brew, means our coffee will be having a dull taste. You understand? So you have to make sure that you know the age of the beans before you use them. But if you are in a critical moment when you only have fresh beans at the cafe, you don't chase away customers that you don't have coffee. What you have is fresh. No. how do you operate it? Here, this is what I told you, that you have to reduce the temperatures of the machine, the temperatures of the water you're using. Then you can use this coffee. You can reduce up to 84 degrees Celsius. Then you can use this coffee, because the carbon dioxide will not be burned out. You understand? It will not be burned out. So it will be it will be somehow good, but not that much as good when the coffee beans are in a perfect age. You understand? That's what I told you, that if they are fresh, there's a way we can operate it by reducing the temperatures. If they have aged, there's a way still we can operate it by increasing. You understand? Okay, so yeah. So you can tell how the age of the beans can affect your coffee, taste. You understand, eh? Okay. Factor number 8.
Roast profile.
Roast
Profile.
Okay. So when you talk about the roast profile, you know, guys, the roast profile is very important. We have 4 roasting profiles. Okay. We have what we call light roast. We have medium roast. We have medium to dark roast. We have also the dark roast. You understand? All these beans, they will be different in the characteristics they have. You understand? Or the variables they have. You understand? So if beans are light roasted, or if beans are medium roasted, or if beans are medium to dark roasted, or if beans are dark roasted, still you have to know how to operate them. You understand? You have to know how to operate them. Because you cannot use dark roasted coffee beans on V60. You get? And you cannot use dark roasted coffee beans on high temperatures. You understand? So I'll explain more the roasting profile when we are studying the roasting basics. You understand? Yeah, I'll explain it more. But what you have to know, you have the light roast, medium roast, medium to dark roast, and dark roast. You understand? Is it there? So factor number 9, it is the coffee process. Okay, so the coffee process too, I will explain it more when you are studying coffee processes. Okay, but what you have to know, you have what we call the dry process and the wet process and honey process. You understand? These two, they can affect your coffee in flavor intensity. You understand? Because if coffee is light roasted, it has different flavors from that which is medium roasted. You understand? If coffee has passed through dry process, it has different characteristics from that have passed through wet process. You understand? So, guys, make sure you are the video and you people seated here. You have to make sure that you know the factors that affect the coffee, because this is what we do in coffee shops every day. This is what governs our coffee taste. You understand? If you cannot tell these, meaning you're not a barista. You understand? You're not a barista. Okay? You have to know everything. Then I'm going to post this video on YouTube, and you please view it on YouTube. If you have not understood something, rewind. If you have not understood something, rewind. Okay? Because I want you to understand everything and the factors that affect. Okay.